You wake up knowing something has to change. You feel it before you even leave the bed. Your life is moving, but somehow you're not. And the real reason is far stranger than laziness. Feeling stuck is not the absence of motion. You can be busy all day and still feel trapped in the same place. You answer messages, finish tasks, watch videos, make plans, and promise yourself that tomorrow will be different. But when tomorrow arrives, the same invisible wall is waiting. Why? Because your brain doesn't measure progress by how much effort you spend. It measures progress by whether your actions seem to change your future. When effort produces no visible result, your mind starts protecting you from wasting more energy. That protection feels like procrastination. It feels like low motivation. It feels like you have become someone who cannot move forward. That's not what happened. Your brain learned that movement was pointless. In the late 1960s, psychologists Martin Seligman and Stephen Meyer studied what happened when animals were exposed to stressful situations they could not control. Some eventually stopped trying to escape, even when escape later became possible. Seligman called this pattern learned helplessness. The important word is learned. The brain can learn that action does not matter. It can also learn the opposite. You may have experienced a smaller version of this without realizing it. You applied for jobs, heard nothing. You started exercising and saw no change. You tried to save money, but another expense erased the progress. You opened up to someone and felt ignored. After enough failed attempts, your mind stops asking, what could work? It starts saying, why bother? That sentence is not fact. It's a prediction. Your brain is guessing that the future will resemble the past because prediction is one of the most important jobs. But what happens when an old prediction becomes your identity? You stop saying, this plan failed. You start saying, I will always fail. You stop saying, I have not found the right approach. You start saying, something is wrong with me. A temporary pattern becomes a permanent label. And labels are heavy. Psychologist Albert Bandura spent decades studying self-efficiency, which simply means your belief that your actions can produce a result. High self-efficiency does not mean blind confidence. It means you expect effort to have some effect. Low self-efficiency means you begin before you have already decided the ending. That changes everything. When you believe your actions matter, difficulty feels like information. When you believe your actions don't matter, difficulty feels like proof. One person sees a setback and adjusts the plan. Another sees the same setback and abandons the goal. Which version appears in your life? The answer may depend less on discipline than on evidence. Your brain needs proof that you can influence what happens next. Not a motivational speech, not a perfect vision board, proof. That's why huge goals often make stuckness worse. A huge goal creates a huge gap between where you are and where you think you should be. Every day your mind compares reality with the finished version. The distance feels overwhelming. So even small progress looks meaningless. You write one page, but the book is not finished. You save $50, but you're not financially secure. You exercise for a week, but your body is not transformed. You make one difficult phone call, but your life still looks the same. Does that mean the action failed? No. It means you're using the wrong measurement. Your brain is looking for arrival when it should be looking for direction. Arrival says, you only win when the entire problem is solved. Direction says, you win when today's action points toward the life you want. One measurement makes progress rare. The other makes progress visible. Visible progress matters because your mind responds to completed loops. In the 1920s, psychologist Bluma Zignorek noticed that restaurant servers remembered unpaid orders better than completed ones. Her later research helped establish what became known as the Zeigarnik effect. Unfinished tasks tend to remain mentally active. An open loop keeps pulling at your attention. Too many open loops create mental noise. You may call that noise stress. You may call it distraction. You may call it being overwhelmed. But often your mind is simply carrying too many unfinished promises at once. Start the business. Fix your finances. Get in shape. Clean the house. Improve your relationships. Learn a new skill. Change your entire life. Your brain hears all of it. Then it protects itself by avoiding all of it. This is one of the strangest parts of feeling stuck. You may think you need more ambition, but you may actually need fewer active goals. A mind facing 10 urgent directions often chooses none. So the first fix is not to push harder, it is to reduce the number of battles. Choose one area where change would make the rest of your life easier. Not the most impressive goal, not the goal that would look best online, the goal that would create leverage. What is the smallest meaningful problem you can solve? Maybe your room is chaotic, and the chaos follows you into every morning. Maybe your sleep is broken, and every decision becomes harder. Maybe your money feels invisible, and you avoid checking it. Maybe your body feels weak because movement disappeared from your day. Maybe one unfinished conversation occupies more mental space than you admit. Pick one. Then shrink it until action feels almost too easy. This may sound weak. It's not. A small action is not meant to transform your life in one day. It's meant to restore the connection between choice and consequence. You choose, something changes, your brain notices. That is the beginning of movement. Researcher Peter Goldswitzer studied implementation intentions, which are simple if-then plans that connect a situation to a specific behavior. Instead of saying, you will exercise more, you say, if it is 7 in the morning, then you will walk for 10 minutes. Instead of saying, you will work on your future, you say, if dinner is finished, then you will open the document and write one paragraph. The action becomes attached to a clear trigger. Why does this work? Because vague goals require you to make the same decision again and again. Every repeated decision creates another chance to avoid. A clear trigger removes negotiation. You don't wait to feel ready. You follow the rule you already created. This is where many people make another mistake. They build a plan for their most motivated self. They imagine a future version with endless energy, perfect focus, and no bad days. Then the real day arrives. The plan collapses. A useful plan must survive your tired version. It must work when you're discouraged. It must work when the day goes badly. It must work when motivation is missing. Otherwise, it's not a system, it's a fantasy. Behavior researcher Philippa Lally and her colleagues studied how habits form in daily life. They found that automatically usually takes much longer than the popular 21-day myth suggests. And the timing varies widely from person to person. The deeper lesson is simple. Repetition matters more than drama. You do not become unstuck through one heroic day. You become unstuck by making movement normal. That means the goal is not intensity. The goal is return. You will miss a day. You will lose momentum. You will fall back into an old pattern. The important question is not, did you fail? It is, how quickly did you return? A person who returns after one bad day is building resilience. A person who returns one bad day into a bad month is building a story. The story usually sounds like this. Here you go again. But a broken streak is not a broken identity. What would happen if you stopped treating interruption as defeat? You can make recovery part of the plan. You miss the morning walk, you take 5 minutes after lunch. If you overspend, you review the purchase that evening instead of avoiding your account for a week. If you lose focus, you restart with 2 minutes instead of waiting for Monday. The comeback becomes automatic. This changes your relationship with failure. Failure stops being a verdict. It becomes a signal. The signal tells you the system needs adjustment. Maybe the action is too large. Maybe the trigger is unclear. Maybe the environment makes the bad choice easier. Maybe the reward arrives too late. Maybe the goal belongs to someone else. That last possibility matters. Sometimes you feel stuck because you're trying to move toward a life you don't actually want. You chase a career because it sounds respectable. You pursue a body because it earns approval. You copy someone else's routine because their results look impressive. You keep climbing a ladder without asking where it leads. Then your resistance may not be weakness. It may be information. Your mind can become exhausted from performing goals that you don't feel like yours. The solution is not always more discipline. Sometimes the solution is honesty. But what would you still want if nobody could see it? That question removes applause. It removes comparison. It removes the imaginary audience sitting inside your head. What remains may be quieter, but is often more real. You may not want a perfect life. You may want a calmer morning. You may want meaningful work. You may not want fame. You may not want to become a different person. You may want to trust the person you already are. Trust is built through kept promises, not giant promises, small ones. When you tell yourself you will do something and then you do it, your mind records evidence. When you repeatedly break promises to yourself, your mind records that too. This is why overly ambitious plans can damage more than your schedule. They can damage credibility with yourself. So make promises you can keep. Then keep them slightly longer than feels necessary. Let your identity catch up with your behavior. You are not trying to prove that you can change everything. You are proving that your actions have consequences. One glass of water does not create health, but it can begin a pattern. One saved dollar does not create wealth, but it can begin control. One honest conversation does not repair every relationship, but it can end avoidance. Movement creates evidence. Evidence creates belief. Belief makes larger movement possible. This is the opposite of waiting for confidence. Confidence often arrives after the action, not before it. You don't need to feel capable to begin. You need to begin in a way small enough that capability can be discovered. Think of a heavy wheel resting in dirt. The first push is the hardest because nothing is moving. Once it begins to roll, each push adds to the last. The wheel doesn't become lighter. Momentum changes the experience of its weight. Your life can feel the same. At first, cleaning one corner seems pointless. Sending one application seems insignificant. Walking for 10 minutes seems almost insulting compared with the change you need. But the action is doing two jobs. It's changing the outside world, and it's changing what your brain expects from you. That second change is easy to miss. The clean corner says, you can reduce chaos. The application says, you can create opportunities. The walk says, you can act without waiting for motivation. Each result becomes a vote for a new prediction. Your future may not be fixed. Your brain may be simply using outdated evidence. Give it new evidence. Don't ask what would completely transform your life today. Ask what would make tomorrow 1% easier. Prepare the close. Write the first sentence. Move the money. Delete the distraction. Schedule the appointment. Place the object where the action begins. Then stop. Let completion count. You are not behind because your progress looks small. You're rebuilding the basic belief that effort can change direction. The belief may have been weakened by disappointment, exhaustion, rejection, or years of goals that were too large to finish. But beliefs built through experience can be rebuilt through experience. The fix is not a sudden burst of motivation. It's a repeated pattern of influence. You act, something changes. You notice, then you act again. Eventually, the wall that seemed permanent becomes a collection of smaller obstacles. The future that felt closed begins to contain options. The person who felt incapable begins collecting proof. And the life that seemed frozen starts moving before the feeling of stuckness has fully disappeared. That is the final twist. You don't wait until you feel unstuck to move. You move until your brain can no longer defend the idea that you are stuck. Tomorrow, you will wake up knowing something has to change. But this time, before you leave the bed, one small part of your life already will.